He has spoken on the topics faith, family and freedom in Cuba, Belgium, Brazil, Congo, UK and all over the USA to crowds from 14 to 40,000. International leadership speaker, trainer and coach. Author of Learn to Raw Leadership, Attitude Hack, Live a More Excellent Life, 5 Battle Strategies of a Victorious Warrior. 2021 President's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. Founding partner of the John Maxwell team. Toastmaster International Speech Competition semi-finalist. Founder of Tell It Like It Is TV, ThatGuyRocks.com and ThatGuySpeaks.com. Creator of Story Power TV, Transforming Grace TV, and Leading Leaders Podcast. Producer of 4 TV programs and podcasts for Liftable TV and World Trumpet Television as well as multiple social media channels. Please help me welcome J Loren Norris.
I remember working in the sales department in a large company, and our sales coordinator / receptionist used to have a sign over her desk that said, "Don't mess with me or I'll lose your paperwork. Don't mess with me or I'll lose your paperwork." And that was I thought it was kind of a joke. I thought it was kind of a bizarre joke, but I later learned not only was it not a joke, and it wasn't even a threat. It was a promise. It was a promise. And if you're curious whether or not that has anything to do with leadership or narrative or story power or justice, well, then you just hold on to your britches right there, and I'm going to explain it to you in this episode of Leading Leaders.
Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.
I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, and you realize when there's one person who handles the entire schedule of the boss, they might call him the gatekeeper. Sure, there's an open door policy, but the door is only open when they buzz the little button from under the desk to unlock the door to let you in. The door is only open when you can actually schedule an appointment. I don't know if you've ever been in sales or if you've ever worked in a corporate environment where the only access you have to the big boss, the decision maker, the final arbiter of how things happen in your life is controlled by one person. And that one person may not even tell the boss that you want an appointment if you get on their bad side. See, this person who had the sign above their desk that "Don't tick me off or get on my bad side," or "You better be nice to me or I'll lose your paperwork," actually did intentionally. Not lose, because, if it goes missing altogether, then it has to be replaced and somebody has to do the work again. But it could accidentally get filed in the wrong file folder, therefore untouched until a deadline has passed. If you're on a sales cycle and a sales schedule, then turning in your paperwork on time can make the difference between whether or not all of those sales go on this month or next month. It makes a big difference as to whether or not you get paid the commission in this month or next month or 3 months from now. And where you report those sales, the day that you report them, the place that you report them, the projects and products that you report. If there's an incentive to sell X number of blue balloons in January and you actually meet that number, but the sales for the blue balloons don't get reported until February, well, then you don't get the incentive because you didn't report it on time. That's how someone who controls your paperwork can control your destiny. That's how the narrative can lead to injustice. There's a story that's been in the news the last couple of days. It's just now beginning to make national news. A story of a bunch of high school students who worked their tail off. They achieved a certain level of accomplishment. They worked hard enough to get a meritorious award for their academic effort. Now, if you went to the gym and you put in an hour and a half every day of treadmill and lifting weights, treadmill and lifting weights, treadmill and lifting weights, but when you went to the scale, instead of showing that you've built muscle and lost fat, when you step on the scale, it said, well, I can't tell you until everybody else is the same size. I can't tell you if you've made any progress until everybody who's sitting on the couch eating ice cream and Doritos is actually the same size as well. It's not fair for you to accomplish and achieve no matter how hard you worked until everybody else has caught up with you. See, that's the mindset of the superintendent of the school district, that it's not fair that these kids get this meritorious award for the work that they've put in, because not everybody got one. And so instead of issuing them when they were given by the organization that said, look how well these kids have performed, they held on to them until later in the year when it was almost time for the winter break, so that they could take them home and then not brag about them in the classroom and make the other students who did nothing, who academically sat on the couch eating ice cream and Doritos and didn't do the work, but they wouldn't feel bad about it. They could go home and not be ostracized for having done nothing. See, the narrative of the superintendent is equality for all, equal effort, equal opportunity, just equal outcome. It needs to be exactly the same on the end, which was kind of what happened in my sales cycle. There was an individual who had not been working because they'd been on maternity leave. And when they came back, they were losing accounts left and right. And the salesperson literally looked at it and said, well, there's a way we can kind of gerrymander these accounts until they look like mine, and they don't look like hers. And then she doesn't lose so much ground because he's got a whole lot of extra. He's sold a whole lot more than we thought he was going to, and she hasn't sold anything. So if we kind of redistribute the wealth, then he doesn't get a gigantic commission check, but she doesn't get unemployed. And so they literally used my effort to save her job. That's a narrative controlling justice. The superintendent put enough pressure on the school principal that the school principal said, I know you've received these meritorious awards for the effort that you've put in, these academic achievements, but in my worldview, in my belief, my big overarching story, my narrative says that everybody should be equal. And so I don't want you to go home on your summer break or begin your academic year thinking you're some kind of superstar and that the people around you are not as good. So I'm going to hold these till later in the year. And it's not that you didn't earn them. It's just that, that season of time when graduating seniors might submit things like a Meritorious Achievement Award along with their college applications, because it's going to make a difference into what schools you get accepted in and which ones you don't. We don't want you submitting that stuff because, that gives you an upper hand. We think everybody should be able to submit at the same level, that everybody should have equal outcomes. And so those students who worked extra hard to get extra academic accomplishment, they got no credit for it. The narrative of the superintendent and the principal that equity for all makes good sense, it makes the field fair, actually meant that those who did work harder got nothing. Nothing more than the ones who didn't work at all. Now, I want you to know this doesn't just happen in academics and it doesn't just happen in sales. It happens across the board. It's a political ploy. It's a political ploy on a global scale, believe it or not. There are places where countries kind of play the same game. Maybe it has to do with your energy sources, whether they're nuclear or electric or petroleum-based. Maybe it has to do with your monetary funds, whether they're based on gold or based on petroleum. Yes, that is an argument that's going on right now. If you are not paying attention to what's going on in the world, you should probably take a step back from your daily life for a minute and go, what is going on in the world? There's a reason everybody's going to be driving electric cars by 2030. And the narrative says that reason is global warming, but the politics says that reason is for the redistribution of wealth. It also says it's about controlling people because the narrative controls justice. True story. Yeah, just do some research. You'll figure it out. It's not hard stuff. But I can tell you this, as a leader, you need to be aware that the narrative in your head is controlling the justice of the people that you lead. Yep. You may not even realize it. You may not realize that your subconscious bias has created a system of favoritism in the way that you communicate with certain people within your organization, the people that you lead. But the narrative in your head will lead to justice or injustice, and it could be delayed justice, which then is no justice at all. It's too late when the commission cycle has already started over to take those last 3 sales that would have moved you from 100% of goal to 130% and really changed your income for that month to kind of level it out. At some point, that sales cycle looks a lot more like your averaged out electric bill, where you're paying way too much in the months when you don't use much electricity and about the same in the months that you use a lot of electricity. That averaged out bill is no good for averaged out sales income at all. But when you try to level the playing field for people who work really hard to achieve and bring up those who don't, then you really have 2 results. The first of which is, if I put in 0 effort and I get the same results as the guy who puts in all the effort, why in the world would I ever work harder? Why would I apply myself? Why would I sacrifice my time off? Why would I give up my conveniences? Why would I do more if, in the end, we get the same results? If I put in 6 hours of honest, hard work and they put in 8, but I get paid the same for my 6 that they get paid for their 8, well, why would I bother putting in 8? In fact, what if I could put in 4? Would I still get paid the same as my 6? Would I still get the same benefits, the same accolades, the same accomplishments, the same chances at promotion? So why would I work harder if I can get the same reward for doing less? At the same time, the other side of that double-edged sword is, if your narrative says make sure everybody has equal outcome, then the stories that you're telling yourself and the stories that you're telling your team might look like, hey, thanks for coming in and working a 12-hour day. It wasn't necessary, because at the end of the day, you're going to get paid the same as a guy that worked 4 or 6 hours. Thanks for coming in on your off time. Thanks for coming in on your day off. Thanks for answering the call at any time of night or day because I had a question. Thank you for being that extra person. But in the end, it doesn't impact your job opportunities. It doesn't impact your promotion opportunities. It doesn't impact your title. It doesn't impact your earning capacity. You're the same as everybody else because I believe in equality of outcome. Thanks for doing the extra, but your thanks is all you get. You see how the narrative begins to control justice? If the ideologies in your head shape the way that you think about the people around you, they will shape the way you behave with the people around you. The decisions you make, the hiring decisions, the promotion decisions, the job assignment decisions. As you're doling out the work, you might look at somebody that you know will put in the hard work and you give them the most complicated tasks because you know they'll pull it off. And you look at the other people on your team who, well, they're not going to do that. They might nap at their desk. They might snack at their desk. They might really spend more time on their cell phone than they will with doing what you've assigned them to do. So knowing that, because you want both of them still to have a job at the end of the week, you give the easiest brainless task to the one who simply won't do anything and the hardest task to the one who will. And somehow in your mind, you see that as justice because in the end, they're going to get the same paycheck at the end of the day. But your productivity isn't damaged because you're giving the hard work to the one who'll do the hard work. You follow me so far? Yeah, there's a whole lot of leadership that starts with the narrative inside your head. The things that you tell yourself about the way you believe the world should operate. The stories that come out of your mouth, they kind of tell on you for what those narratives are. What is the script that's running 24/7 in the background of your mind? The subconscious biases, the decisions you've already made, the decisions you would love one day to have the power and the authority to make. Those decisions will also drive the behavior and the relationships and the decisions that you make. It happens every day. As a leader, you've got to understand that the narrative playing in your head sometimes is the narrative that's being played in the heads of people superior to you or in the people completely outside of you, but they're the media, the social media. They're speaking into your mind what should be right, what should be fair. Let me pull what seems to be a tangent into this. I want you to think back about Vivek Ramaswamy, who wrote the book Woke Inc. He talks about building $1 billion business from nothing. $1 billion business from nothing. But the narrative in his head, and the narrative in the media's head, and the narrative in the heads of his thousands of employees were not the same. What did get in sync was the media narrative and the narrative of his 2,000 plus employees, and he had a revolt in his own company and the company he invested in, that he sacrificed time and money and family for, in the company that would not have existed without him. The employees had a resonating narrative with the media, and they revolted against him, which led him to leave the company he built. Because the narrative in his head and the narrative in the company's head didn't match anymore. The narrative can control justice. In the same way that that receptionist who can control your paperwork, or that receptionist who can control the schedule and what authority you have to speak to the boss about the injustice that you're experiencing, or to the sales manager about the injustice you're experiencing, the narrative can control those things. Here's the real question. Who leads the narrative? The answer should be you, because you're the leader. That's your job. You should be leading the narrative. You should be speaking in tiny little stories every day, through every sales communication, through every new standard operating procedure, through every internal policy, through every daily decision on who does what work. You should be leading the narrative by painting a picture that's clear enough for people to understand this is what we stand for, this is who we are, and this is how we operate. If your organization believes and operates as a meritocracy, make it clear. Don't just say it. Do the things necessary. Don't withhold people's reward for the hard work that they put in and redistribute them to other people. Make sure that those who do hard work are rewarded for the hard work that they do. Nobody wants to go to the gym and put in the hours to watch somebody else get the same accolades that they get for doing nothing. All right, you know as well as I do, we're all jealous of those people who have that natural physique. I have a son who's almost 6'3", and he's like 3% body fat. Nobody else in the family has been able to do that. Just that one kid drives me crazy because he doesn't do anything. He doesn't go to the gym. From time to time, he does his BJJ and stuff like that, but he's never had to work hard to stay skinny. Everybody else in the family has to work hard to stay skinny. Where does he get off with that? Well, if I looked at his physique and I looked at mine and I said, I'm going to spend 5 times more time in the gym so that I can look like him, I should be rewarded with the time I spend in the gym by looking like him. But the unfairness, the sense of justice as it seems, is that he looks that way without any effort. I put in all the effort and I still can't look that way. It shouldn't be that way at work. It shouldn't be that way in your organization. But as the leader, you get to control the narrative. You decide about policies. You decide about sales teams. You decide about schedules and assignments. You're the leader. That's your job. So make sure that you control the narrative, that you lead the narrative in your workplace, that you lead the narrative as a leader, so that everyone benefits for the work that they put in. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, or Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Loren is a master teacher on storytelling, and I learned so much. I'm really going to have to sit down and go back through everything, and I think I might have to have some more coffees with Loren, but it was totally worth my time, and I really highly recommend it if you're looking to grow your ministry, grow your business, grow your career. Loren will serve you well.
Thank you.